Today, we are diving into a really fascinating story. It's from a text that's about 2,500 years old, and it's all about defiance, discipline, and what it really means to train your own mind. It starts, like so many great stories do, with someone just saying no.
You know the feeling, right? We've all been there. That little voice inside that just digs its heels in. I want you to hold on to that feeling, because it is right at the heart of this ancient story about a monk who decided to challenge the Buddha himself.
All right, let's get into it. The scene is set in ancient India. The Buddha and his community of monks are all staying together in a park, and the whole conflict kicks off with a very simple and honestly a pretty reasonable sounding request.
So, the Buddha suggests a new training rule for everyone. From now on, eat just one meal a day. And he's not framing it as some big sacrifice. He's actually presenting it as a path to better health and strength. You could almost call it an ancient wellness tip. But as we're about to see, not everyone was ready to get on board. And there it is. A monk named Bhaddali just stands up and right in front of everybody, publicly refuses. And his reason? He's worried it's going to make him anxious. I mean, what a stunning moment of public defiance against his own teacher. Now, this wasn't just a momentary thing, like a brief protest. We're talking 3 entire months. While all the other monks are following this new rule, Bhaddali just stays away, completely holding on to his refusal. He totally separated himself from the whole community, all over this one single rule. Okay, so after those 3 months go by, Bhaddali's fellow monks come to him and pretty much say, hey, you should probably reconsider this. They warn him not to let things get any worse, and that seems to be the push he needed to finally go and face the consequences. So Bhaddali goes back to the Buddha. He admits he was being foolish and messing up, and he asks for forgiveness. But the Buddha doesn't just say, okay, no problem. Oh no. First, he wants to make absolutely sure that Bhaddali understands the full impact of what he did. And this is where the Buddha just lays out the real reputational cost. He goes right down the list. Look, it's not just your fellow monks who know, it's the nuns, it's the lay followers, the very people who provide your food, even people from other spiritual traditions. In a small, interconnected world like that, word that's around. His private act of defiance had very, very public consequences. Then, the questioning gets even more intense. The Buddha starts asking this series of sharp questions, basically getting at, when you refused the training, were you acting from a place of deep insight? Were you some kind of enlightened master in that moment? Of course, Bhaddali has to answer no to every single question. And then comes this incredibly direct, almost brutal assessment. But the Buddha isn't being cruel here, he's just being precise. He's forcing Bhaddali to see that his resistance wasn't born from wisdom, but from a total lack of it. And after that really sharp dose of reality, the Buddha forgives him. And this is such a crucial point. The mistake itself isn't the end of the world. Real growth, that comes from seeing the mistake for what it is, making things right, and then committing to do better in the future. The failure actually becomes the foundation for strength. Okay, so with the apology accepted, the Buddha now pivots. He moves on from Bhaddali's specific mistake to the universal principle behind the rule. He's about to answer the big why. Why does this kind of discipline even matter in the first place?
So he lays out these 2 very different paths. On the one hand, you have the person who doesn't do the training. They end up getting criticized by everyone, their teacher, their friends, even themselves, and they make no real progress. But the person who does the training, well, they're free from all that criticism and they open the door to these really profound states of mind.
And this just beautifully illustrates what that progress actually looks like. See, the whole point of the discipline isn't just to follow a bunch of rules. No, it's to cultivate a mind that is so calm, so stable, and so clear that it can achieve these incredible states of insight, all the way to complete liberation from suffering. The rule is just the tool, it's not the final destination. But Bhaddali, well, he still seems a little bit lost, so the Buddha turns to this powerful metaphor to really make the lesson stick. And he even points out that Bhaddali wasn't paying attention the first time he taught it. You gotta love this part. The Buddha basically says, okay, you completely missed this before because you weren't listening, so listen up now. He's about to compare the training of a human mind to the taming of a wild horse. He breaks it down step by step. A horse trainer doesn't just jump on a wild colt and hope for the best, right? First, there's the discomfort of getting used to the bit. Then comes the harness. It's this patient, gradual practice, getting the colt used to each stage until, eventually, it masters the highest skills and becomes worthy of a king.
And here's the direct parallel for us. A human being becomes worthy in the exact same gradual way, by training in these 10 qualities. You might even recognize the first 8 of these as the Noble Eightfold Path. It's a training that slowly but surely transforms an ordinary person into someone truly extraordinary.
And the final result is just so powerful. The trained horse serves the king, but the trained human, a person with a mind that is mastered and gentle, they serve the entire world. They become the source of goodness and inspiration for everyone. So what's the big takeaway here? What should we get from this 2,500-year-old story about a stubborn monk and a wild horse? Why does any of this matter to you and me, right here, right now? I think this is the core lesson. Whether it's a new diet, a new exercise routine, a meditation practice, whatever it is, the rules themselves aren't the point. They're just the bit and the harness. They are the tools that we use to gently and patiently train those wild, untamed parts of our own minds. The real goal isn't restriction. It's a deeper, more meaningful freedom.
And that leaves us with one final question to think about. When you look at your own habits, your own points of resistance, your own hopes for self-mastery, what wild colt are you trying to train in your own life?